Hello again, and welcome back to Robes and Reviews. I have another review for you. I'm not going to talk about makeup in this video. My makeup is already done. It's been on all day. I guess the only thing I'll mention is the setting spray. I used the one size powder melt to kind of melt my powder and give me a dewy-ish look. And then I sprayed the Danessa Myrick Blurring Balm Powder Setting Spray. Chef's kiss. This makeup has been on since this morning and it still looks great, and it's currently like 10:40 p.m. So no touch-ups, no nothing. Well, I touched up the lipstick, but other than that, it's been good. But we are going to get right into a book that I've wanted to talk about on video for quite some time. I have posted a couple of written reviews about it, and it was and still pretty much is my favorite book so far of 2026. And I think I read this back in like February or March. But they just released the physical copy like last week, and I am so obsessed with it. I actually have two copies of the book, one from Barnes & Noble, one from an independent bookstore called All the Tropes here in Atlanta. And the reason I got the independent bookstore copy is because it came with extra little goodies. I'm so excited. But without further ado, let me get into the book that I'm talking about. And it is called Daggermouth by H.M. Wolfe. And it is a dark, and when I say dark, I mean dark, true enemies to lovers, dystopian romance. So if any of those things appeal to you, dark romance, dystopian, or enemies to lovers, the book has got all three. It's got great storylines and subplots that really, and twists and turns. It's just chef's kiss. I recently re-listened. So it was initially published on independently, and it was on Kindle Unlimited. And so I read it on Kindle Unlimited, loved it, waited impatiently for the audiobook to drop. And I think that dropped in like May or June. And then I was like chomping at the bit to get the physical copy because it is stunning. And that came out, I think, the 28th of July. And I'm so in love. The cover is beautiful. I love this black, white, and red motif. And y'all, there's like a surprise on the inside. So this is the independent bookstore copy. So it came with a couple of bookmarks, like this little dagger bookmark, which I think is so cool. And I am digging it. It's got a nice little surprise. It also came with custom artwork. So look at this. This is the main character, Shadera, and the male main character, Grayson, and it is epic. And this is just another artwork of this particular couple. And what I want to say about this book is one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much is because the female main character is a bit rough around the edges. Like, she's an assassin, which I think is pretty cool. And her love interest, or enemy really, is Grayson, Cyril, who is actually like an executioner of mostly people from like the poor side of town. But he's kind of torn up about it, and there's many layers to him, which I think is really like it's beautiful the way H.M. Wolfe tells this story. And it's a duet. I'm pretty sure it's a duet. And so the second book is going to be dropping, I think, next year. And I think the title of the second book is called Python. But it's phenomenal. I don't want to give too much away because I like to keep these reviews spoiler free. see, but there are some side characters that are unforgettable, and it's a wild ride is what I'm going to say about this book. But I loved it. Absolutely just ate it up. It was so good. So if you like dark romance, dystopian, and true, and when I say, how with some enemies to lovers books, it's like they were never really enemies, or they were like their families hated each other or whatever. And once they got to know each other, they're kind of like, oh, I don't actually understand why we hate each other. These two have history. Like, they do not like each other. And it's really interesting to see how their dynamic shifts over the course of the book. So that's one thing that I really love. The other thing that I want to mention is this is a Black female author, which I think is wonderful. I've been trying to incorporate more persons of color into my reading journey. So obviously, because I want to represent women who look like me, but also I just think it's great to kind of diversify your reading, to see different perspectives. Do I read from white male authors, white female authors, Asian authors? I just about any author out there, I gobble it up. So yeah, but this is the review. It's much shorter than my previous review because I wanted to focus on the book this time. But this book was such it was 6 stars, like 6 easy stars, all the stars. It was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. I remember staying up way past my bedtime a few nights to get this book completed, and I cannot emphasize how fantastic I think this book is. I don't want to overhype it because I know sometimes people go into books with super duper high expectations because Book Talk or whatever have hyped up a book so much, and then you read it and you're kind of disappointed. This book met and then ultimately exceeded my expectations, because whenever I hear about a book on Book Talk or Bookstagram or whatever, just out in the wild, I'm always just a hair skeptical about it, just because I feel like, you like what you like, and not everybody's writing style is for everyone. Not every genre is for everyone. So you just kind of have to figure out what you like. I personally am a big fan of romance, all types. It really doesn't matter. I really enjoy romance. I love fantasy. I obviously love romantasy. Sci-fi, like I love it all because I feel like there's merit in authors putting their words on paper and taking the time to really craft a good book. Are there bad books out there? Absolutely. But like I said in my previous video, I am very selective when it comes to what I read. So just because a book gets recommended to me and gets added to my mile-long TBR doesn't necessarily mean that I will read it. Or I'm also a mood reader. So there have been some books that I have picked up and said, I just can't read this right now. Now is not the right time for the book. And I've set it aside with every intention of coming back to it. And for a couple of those books, it's been a few years. But for some of the books, I come back to them within a month or two when I'm feeling less out of sorts. And the book is great. I really enjoyed it. So it really varied. But I would encourage you to add Daggermouth to your TBR. And I think this is a book that men and women can enjoy. Men, if you're just getting into romance, which you absolutely should if you want to know what the girlies know. Smart guys read romance. But I will say this book has enough action and, you know, violence, for lack of a better term, to keep men engaged for the duration of the book, and enough twists and turns. And I do want to mention, though, this book has trigger warnings, and a lot of them. So if you are vulnerable or in a vulnerable place right now, I recommend you check the trigger warnings, because this book is absolutely violent. It's absolutely, you know, it's got abuse and other things in it that are triggering, for lack of a better term. And so I just, you know, want people to be aware of that. This is adult fiction. It's not YA. It's not for kids by any stretch. But yeah, that's all I want to say about this book. I love it so much. Check out the sprayed edges, just so lovely. And the back of the book says their union is no love story. It's a battlefield, and truer words were never spoken about this book. It's really good. It's also got a bit of slow burn to it now that I think about it. So if you like slow burn as well, there are some intimate scenes in this book, but not from who you'd expect. So, or maybe from who you'd expect, but yeah, it's really good, to say the least. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this book. I hope to catch you in the next episode of Robes and Reviews. I think I forgot to mention my robe. I'm matching my chair. This is, again, from Sexy Little Robe. It's a long robe. It is in my favorite color. I think the style is the Belle robe. It could be the glam robe. I'd have to double check, figure out. But I love these. They're fitted in the sleeve, which I really like, because most robes are really billowy out here and the sleeves get everywhere. And it's really fitted through my waist and whatnot, which I really appreciate. So it just hugs my body. So I definitely appreciate the robe. It's so comfortable. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything else. So see you in the next one. If you decide to pick up this book, let me know. All right, bye.